What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. Love and Marriage Detroit, episode 3 is titled Don't Rock the Boat. And that's exactly what they did the whole episode. Okay. So it opens up with everybody together, and Kristina and Brandon again are going at it back and forth. Brandon is saying that he wants to basically be in the studio without having Kristina be insecure. And, once she hears him call her insecure, she starts crying and she's like, I'm so sick of it. And, I'm tired of being called insecure. I'm not insecure. And so, they leave and they walk outside because I guess they live close to downtown. They live in like a downtown penthouse. But one thing I noticed at the table specifically that he said was he looked at her in front of everybody and says, "You're not the most important person." And she didn't address it. I don't know if she even caught it, but that's what stood out to me, right? When you're married, your spouse, not that you put them above yourself, but people who are not selfish in a marriage consider the feelings of their spouse. He doesn't do that. Okay. And that's what she's pleading for. But until he does that, until he recognizes that, it's not going to get better. I don't know if I feel like they do need to see a marriage and family therapist, because when they went outside and they were walking, he turns to her, he goes, "Why are you with me?" And she's like, "What do you mean, why am I with you?" And he looks at her and he's like, "I mean, do you even want to be married?" He's like, "I mean, do you want to be married to me, or do you want to be married just for the sake of marriage? You love the institution of marriage." He basically called her, a social climber or status clout seeker. And it is unfortunate that women do have a lot of pressure on them to be married, but they've been married for 11 years. So this isn't new. I feel like they would really, do well with a marriage and family therapist, a good one, right? But he ends up turning and walking away while she walks into their penthouse. And later we find out that he never even came back. So Brandon, to me, excuse me, he's really selfish and he's a bit immature. And Kristina keeps pleading with him. And I feel like I always try to give people two chances to hear me. I remember I had this really dope opportunity to travel overseas. And I remember I asked my point person a question, and it didn't get answered the first time, right? So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Life gets in the way, people forget, blah, 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 whatever. So I asked him again, and it was regarding like important things like my lodging, my food, my, the steps I need to take. Cause I've gone overseas and worked before. This isn't your girl's first time, right? So I knew what to expect. I've had correspondence where the other places, your hotel will be set up, your food will be set up weeks in advance, if not months. So with him, um, I was supposed to teach overseas, and the second time I asked him the question, and it went, ignored, unanswered for a long time. For me, I would think like 3 to 5 days is a long time, in my opinion. I just said, "Thank you for your time. No, thank you." And I turned it down, because what you're not going to do is play in my face, and you're not going to ignore me. And this was after he bought the ticket. Okay. So he was like, "Oh my gosh, I already bought the ticket and blah, blah, blah." But he ended up getting a refund. But I was just like, no, because if you are selfish enough or you don't value my questions enough, see, when you speak to someone and you ask them a question, there's a presupposition there that there's a baseline of respect, that that person values you enough to address your concern and answer your question. These men do not, especially Brandon. Okay. So her pleading and yelling and crying and all that, nope. But hopefully, they can get it together, because she, to me, is just talking in circles. Moving on, we go to Dr. LaToya and Anthony. So they're in the car, or Anthony's outside the window. Dr. LaToya's in the car. But basically, she's comparing the situation with Brandon and Kristina to their situation, how she largely feels unheard and disrespected. And, Anthony is backpedaling, like, no, 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 that's not us. And so it's just like more of the same. I just feel like the women are doing everything they can, bending over backwards within this series to try to explain how they feel. And the men are just doing whatever they want to do. Like, he just went to Atlanta without consulting his wife first. Granted, it was for Marvel, and that's a great opportunity. But for him to just leave her, she said, largely she felt abandoned. And he's just bending over backwards trying to justify his negligence, basically. And speaking of, doing whatever you want to do, Kobe goes and visits her parents who are in the ministry. Her father is a pastor, to discuss her husband's decision to go into the ministry as well and being mentored by her father. And as we learned in previous episodes, she had a really hard time being a PK, a pastor's kid. And for him to choose her father, again, to me, is just another slap in the face. Like, it's a disregarding of her feelings. And so her parents are basically saying, let him lead. He's the head of the household, which is true and fine, and that's biblical. However, he should also take her feelings into consideration and not just, again, do what I want to do, because that's not a healthy marriage. That's not a healthy relationship in any aspect. Like, that's just toxic all the way around. So then Brandon and Anthony are FaceTiming, and Brandon's saying, I don't even know if I'm separated. I haven't even been back. And Anthony's like, listen, man, you need to go get your wife. You don't want another man, or you don't want another man coming in, and you don't want your kids calling another man daddy. And Brandon's like, yeah, man, you right. So Anthony's telling him to step it up, learn from his mistakes, because he almost lost his wife, Dr. LaToya, by just abandoning her and the kids. And so then Kristina's talking with her friends, while she's getting her fashion together. She said fashion is a huge part of her life, but she's again complaining about how her husband neglects her. I mean, that's just the theme of this episode. Spousal neglect is what it should be titled. Okay, so Anthony and LaToya are talking again, just about their past situations and, basically how they don't communicate well. That's all I'm hearing, just a clash of communication. They go out and Russell and Kobe, they go on a ropes course to try to have a better sense of team building, which is good. I actually commend Russell for doing that. A nice, icebreaker team building exercise, but at least he's hearing her out, right? I think my favorite in this, I really don't have a favorite, but out of the men, it would be Russell, because he's attempting to. He does seem a bit, I don't know, a bit manipulative, at least in the last session while she was trying to talk, and he was like, trying to kiss her face, which was fine, but he wasn't trying to hear her out. And with this, the ropes course, I know he's big into fitness, but she just ultimately wants to be heard. And then the last scene is when they're on the boat and Anthony breaks down and starts crying because he feels like nobody has his back. I guess because he wasn't able to stay in Atlanta, and he wants to go back to Atlanta. And LaToya has voiced her problem with that. And, he's like, well, I do everything for everybody, and I just want somebody to love me. He's like crying. And I just feel like they're all a bit immature. The men are, right? I feel like Anthony has a lot of things that he needs to work through, because love is, you have to be mature and secure in yourself in order to have a healthy marriage with a spouse, especially one who's a doctor, who's gone through such rigorous, medical training. That's why she's always calm and collected while Anthony is just like explosive and, emotive and, crying. And he reminds me of a toddler a little bit. But anyway, you guys drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this episode of Love and Marriage Detroit. Please be sure to like the video. It's a free way to support the channel. It lets the algorithm know that we're here. If you're new here, welcome. And please be sure to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the subscription and the notification bell so that you know when I make a new video. And with that being said, I will talk with you later. Take care, aces. Bye.